Hey guys, Aaron from the Pioneer Valley Homestead. Today's video I'm going to show you on how to catch moles in your yard and the one trap that has worked for me versus all the rest. So there are a couple of traps out there. There are the spring traps that spike into the ground. There are poisons and road flares and gases and granules and fake rubber worms. But there's been one that works for me, and that one trap is a pinch trap right here. So you need to find an active tunnel. This can't be a mound. This has to be an active tunnel. Now, if you have a tunnel running through your yard, like I have quite a few here, there's some things that you can do to make sure it's an active tunnel. One thing you can do is you can push down and then come back the next day to see if there are any cracks or crevices in that tunnel still. And if there are, that's pretty good chance it's an active tunnel. If after a day or two there's nothing, then it's probably a pretty good chance that it's not. The next thing that you can do, so here I have just stuck my finger straight through, and what happens is as they dig back up, it actually fills back in the hole and pushes the dirt up like you just saw. So I'm going to cover that back up so that way they don't notice it. So all you need to do for this trap is you're going to line it up with the tunnel, and that's going to tell you how big you're going to dig. So you're going to want to dig starting on the outsides of the pinchers, and that way you can get a hole big enough. But remember, this also does extend, so you need to build this hole kind of wider than what you would think. All right, so here we have dug the hole, and you can see one hole here and one hole here. Next, what you're going to do, and like I said, you need to build this pretty wide, because as you can see, I dug on each side, and that way the trap has room to, when you activate it or use the tools, it will extend, and I'll show you that. But what you need to do is you need to build a mound in the middle like this, so that way the trigger plate rests on this and the mole will push through that dirt, which then will push the dirt up underneath, and that's what will trigger the plate. Alright, so setting this trap up is rather easy, but what I'm going to tell you guys is please be careful. This can be dangerous. There is a safety in it for a reason. Please use it. If you don't, that's a risk that you're willing to take for broken fingers. Knock on wood, I've never had an issue, but I'm always using the safety, and I always use these tools to pick it up, set it down, to push it down, and then to remove the trigger, the safety on it. So like I said, I'm going to show you how I set it up and go from there. So first you're going to do is you're going to take this first tool, you're going to put it on the springs underneath this handle. Next you're going to take the other tool, and this is where you're going to push them together. And you've got to make sure that this rod is between the two tools so you can put it onto the trigger plate. And you put it on the trigger plate, and this is when you're going to set this hook so that way you can let go of the trap. Now, what I like to do is I'll put this back on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak the trigger plate a little bit more so that way it's a little bit more sensitive. So as you can see right here, I put it in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze these and actually move this over to the very far side, so that way it's a little bit more sensitive. I've always had better luck with it like that, but it's always make sure that safety hook is on, because then it will go off, but it's not going to go off and do a lot of damage as much as it would if it fully snapped. So then what you're going to do is you're going to then take this and you're going to put it in the hole so that that trigger plate sits on that mound of dirt that you used. So like I said, this is where I use this to then work it down in and push it in, because trust me, you don't want your fingers to slip in there or anything like that and cause damage. These run, I think they're about $30 I've had mine for roughly about 8 years, so that's not an issue. All right. So once this is in, I'll show you the setup. All right, so you have the trigger plate resting right above that layer of dirt or the mound of dirt. I have the first pincher going through the hole, and then to get the other hole, you have to go through the other pincher. So what's going to happen now is you have to cover this up and make it so that there's no daylight coming through or no light coming through. So there's a trick that I use with a leaf. Now this has been pretty important to me because what I do is I use a leaf to cover the trigger plate. So I put the leaf over the trigger plate, and I know this is going to seem really weird, but this way there's no dirt sitting in it, around it, and it can kind of block some of the sunlight out. So then what I'm going to do then is basically just kind of sprinkle a little bit of dirt back in to cover up around the sides. And the main point of this is you just don't want as much, you don't want a ton of dirt going down inside of it, but you also don't want sunlight coming through it. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to now put a bucket over the top of it. And what this does is it does a couple of different things. It protects anything that kind of goes near this, whether it's a dog or an animal or anything like that. I don't want anyone getting their paw or leg caught in this. That's a vet bill or anything I just don't want to deal with, and it's not fair to the animals. If they're wounded like that, this is a very quick kill. I've never had an issue with this not killing pretty quickly. So that's, as much as I hate killing things, doing damage to livestock and animals and kids, it's pretty bad. So I just don't want that issue. So now, like I said, I'm going to cover this up with a bucket. I'm going to cover it with leaves before that, and then I'm going to use my thing right there to take off the safety. Now once the mole comes through, I usually have pretty good luck with these within like 12 to 24 hours getting a mole. And then I'll show you guys the results of that afterwards. But like I said, I'll put a link down below for this trap. This is the one I've had the best luck with, and it's probably the most safest trap that you can get for the moles and anything around them. So this is what the trap looks like from afar. Walking up onto it, you're really just not even going to notice it. Once you put the bucket on, it does become really not eyesore, but you can definitely tell something's there. So we have the leaves blocking out the light. I'll put the bucket on top, and then I'll weigh my bucket down with a brick, and that then covers the hole for any of the light to come out. You don't have to bait these or anything like that. There's no attractants, there's no worms to attract them with or anything like that. It's just using their main path that they're using and capitalizing on their trails. And so, like I said, I'll put a link down below. This is the one trap I've loved. It hasn't done me wrong yet. So we'll see how this looks in the morning. We'll go from there. Oh, look, we got a little hitchhiker. That makes me a little bit happier to see that these guys are brown and black. In the beginning of the season, they're all black, which anything I've ever read or dealt with, that's bad news. That's real bad news for the winter. So I'll show you what happens with these traps once I get something. And if you want to try it, like I said, I'll put a link down below where you can buy your own. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.